Scott Optican is an associate professor at the University of Auckland Faculty of Law, among many other feathers. Scott served as a prosecutor in the New York County District's Attorney's Office and clerked in the Federal District Court for the Southern District of New York. Welcome to the show, Scott. Very excited to talk to you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I'm assuming when you worked in those offices, based in and around New York, maybe you not personally, but your offices probably had something to do with Donald Trump from time to time as well, because he was pretty big in the legal sense of the place around the time you were working in there.
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, the office that indicted him, that brought this current prosecution, the New York County District Attorney's Office, that was the office that I worked in for a year. So that was my old office. Yeah, I mean, they were the ones who have taken the lead now on being the first prosecutors ever to actually file criminal charges against Trump himself. Of course, they successfully prosecuted the Trump organization just within the last few months. So they're the ones that brought the criminal case against the Trump organization for tax and other kinds of business fraud that was successful and resulted in a fine, and also got the guilty plea from his chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg. But this is a different order of magnitude, because this is the first time that any prosecutor anywhere in the United States has ever brought charges against Donald Trump or against an elected president. And so that's why the case is unique.
Now, I think for some people, this is all their Christmases rolled up in one, thinking about Donald Trump being in a kind of criminal court, in a court setting. And we could probably talk about all sorts of things for all sorts of time, but to kind of expedite the conversation, are you able to just explain to us, the moron punters at the bottom of the barrel, exactly what's going on and exactly why he's in court?
Sure. So the indictment was unsealed today. An indictment is just an American term for a charging document. And he was arraigned in court today, which basically means he made a very quick court appearance to plead not guilty, be released on his own recognizance, and then the case will proceed from here with legal motions and, eventually a trial sometime in 2024. What the case is about is relatively simple. There are 34 counts in the case. The counts are a fraudulent filing of a business record in New York City. So in other words, there are 34 counts related to fraudulent business record filings, whether they be checks, invoices, or receipts. The fraud was alleged to have taken place because Donald Trump, several weeks before he was elected, through his lawyer, someone named Michael Cohen, who's already pled guilty in this case.
And done jail time.
And done jail time, and is going to be a witness against him at this trial.
Yeah.
What he did is Michael Cohen paid, at Donald Trump's instigation, according to Michael Cohen, he paid $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, an adult film actress with whom Donald was alleged to have had a sexual affair with. And he wanted to cover that up so it didn't come out in the several weeks before the election, because he thought it would lose him votes.
I think it was days, wasn't it? Wasn't it days before the election?
It was about 2 weeks. I think it was about 2 weeks before the election. But the alleged affair had happened years before.
Yeah.
So this was part of the catch and kill agreement that he had with with David Pecker and the Inquirer.
And for people, the catch and killers, catch any rumors that might harm you and kill those rumors. And in this instance, by paying someone off. There could be other ways they killed it, but that's for this one.
And this particular payoff didn't necessarily involve Pecker directly, but this one just involved Trump using his own money through the Trump organization, funneled through Michael Cohen to pay this money to Stormy Daniels. Now, in and of itself, paying hush money to someone is not a crime. You can actually pay someone not to disclose disturbing things about you. It becomes a crime when in your financial records, as part of the Trump organization, you denominate it as legal fees, as a retainer fees, which it wasn't.
Gotcha.
And then it becomes a felony under New York law when you are committing that crime, which is the false business records, in furtherance of another crime. And the other crime is attempting to unlawfully and fraudulently influence an election. So the reason that this rather ordinary business document crime becomes a more serious felony is because it was in the service of a much more serious crime, which was a violation of New York state and federal election laws, which if you're making a payment to someone to influence an election, which this arguably, allegedly was, that is a campaign contribution. You have to denominate that as a campaign contribution. You have to book it as a campaign contribution. You have to disclose it as a campaign contribution. And there are limits on how much you can pay. So the basic charge is 34 counts of fraudulent business records related to the documentation around this hush money payment, illegally and fraudulently denominated as legal fees or retainer paid to Cohen in the service of unlawfully influencing an election in violation of state and or federal laws, because it was effectively a campaign contribution in kind that wasn't booked as such and was in violation of the total amount you can spend and the disclosure requirements thereof. That's it in a nutshell.
I think this is the greatest explanation of what's going on in the history of the world, Scott. I think that this clip should go viral to every news network in the world. I think you've just nutshelled it so beautifully. Explain to me this, so to put it into layman's terms for me, right? I run a business. I put on my books and I put in to my accounts that I spent $10,000 on a ute, a vehicle for my business. But really, what I did was take that money and paid someone to do something disastrously. So in other words, what I've got on my records, what I've put to the IRD here in New Zealand, is $10,000 for a vehicle, but I've done it for something else. That's the first misdemeanor, isn't it?
That's the misdemeanor. That's the first crime. Right.
And then the second one is I take my $10,000, which I was going to spend on my ute. Obviously, it's a very old secondhand ute for that sort of money, and I give it to someone else. And in my books, it says, a vehicle for business. And I say to them, I want you to do something bad with this.
That's right.
And using that money to do another crime elevates it to, in America, what's a felony? We don't have felonies in New Zealand, but a more serious crime. And that's how you've got to that level. Have I kind of layman's term nutshelled it back to you?
That is completely accurate. And the felony in this case is fraudulently influencing an election. So it's not nothing. So if someone ever says to you, this is just a process crime, it's a business crime, it's a paper crime, the answer should be, well, it's a paper crime in the service of something a lot more serious, which is actually trying to influence the outcome of the United States presidential election. That's a big deal.
Yeah. What I can't quite understand, other than the game of politics, is how anyone can sort of deny that first misdemeanor crime, because that seems cut and dry that happened. I know that everyone's innocent until proven guilty. You've got to put the papers on, but it doesn't seem that anyone's sort of disagreeing with that. But Donald Trump, of course, getting on his soapbox is going on and on. None of this stuff happened, but it seems that everyone admits that did actually happen. Am I right in that, or is there still discrepancy between the parties?
Well, I mean, so you have to ask yourself. So let's go. What are the possible defenses to that crime, right? So let's start with the bigger crime. The defense to the felony crime is, I paid the money to Stormy Daniels not to influence the election, but to spare my wife the embarrassment of that case. Right. Sure. So that's his defense there. I wasn't doing it for an election related reason. I was doing it for a lawful reason. I wanted to protect my family, protect my wife. And that's why I did that. So that would be the defense to that crime. The defense to the misdemeanor, the actual record keeping crime, to be honest, to me at this point, it's not completely clear what their defense is going to be. Their defense could be, this was all Michael Cohen's idea, and I had nothing to do with this.
He still has to sign, but Trump still has to sign it off, even if he says to his lawyer, "Is it right?" And the lawyer says yes, Donald Trump still puts his signature on the bottom of it, then, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he could defend by saying, "I honestly thought these were lawyers' fees. Yeah. I honestly thought this was a retainer fee. This was Cohen's idea. I knew nothing about it. In the end, I understood that it was, that there was money paid to Stormy Daniels." But at the time I signed the checks or made the entries, it wasn't me, it was someone else. I didn't have an intent to fraud. I did it in good faith. None of this was my doing. I personally think that's a bit of a stretch, given what the evidence I've seen so far is. But let's put it this way. I mean, they're going to defend this case. They're going to defend this case on all fronts. And so the only way you can come up with a defense to this fraudulent business record case is kind of one of two ways. A, I didn't have the intent to defraud. I mean, I did it in good faith or innocently or whatever. Or B, I'm not the one who did it. Whoever committed the fraud, it wasn't me. So far on the evidence, it looks like they have the goods. But my guess is part of their defense on this is going to be to pin the whole scheme on Cohen or someone else in the Trump organization, and to say that Trump was just kept out of the loop and honestly thought he was paying lawyers' fees.
without obviously knowing the outcomes, and like we all watched the OJ trial, so anything can happen in court. Do
Mm.
you think that New York has a pretty strong case here? Do you expect that this is strong enough for a conviction, or we're understanding that there are three potential cases? This one has been brought. There's two others. The two others, which are
There's
the
three others.
three
There's three
others. So
others.
there's the
Yeah.
Georgia phone call. There's the January 6th. What's the third one?
The third one is the Mar-a-Lago documents case, which is
Of
being
course,
investigated by the same prosecutor, Jack Smith, in the U.S. Justice Department, who was investigating the insurrection case.
of
So the
course.
Fannie Willis case in Georgia, the special grand jury has just concluded, and she's getting ready now to present it to the grand jury that can file the charges. And then Jack Smith has got the Mar-a-Lago documents, confidential documents case, and the insurrection case. So this could be the first of several. Now, you want to ask me, make a prediction as to how this case is going
Well,
to,
I'm just saying, and if you had that evidence on your table, what you've seen on your desk,
yeah.
does it look like a pretty strong case? This first one?
No, I mean, here's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
I think the case does look pretty strong. I think there are some problems with the legal theory of ratcheting it up to the felony based on the election law violation. There are certain legal niceties that may not permit that election law claim to be used to ratchet it up. And the first thing Trump's going to do is file legal arguments saying that the business record crime in service of the election crime, that is not a crime that can ratchet it up. As a matter of law, only certain crimes can ratchet that up to a felony. These are not those sorts of crimes. And those will be quite complex legal arguments around that. Other than that, they're going to go after Cohen big time.
Mm-hmm.
He does have some, credibility issues, no doubt about it. They're going to say he's already pled guilty. His book is entitled Revenge. They wrote it. That's going to be a good question in cross-examination, right?
Yeah.
But what Cohen is going to say, and I saw this many times when I was, a judge's clerk in the Southern District of New York, and when they did mob cases and stuff. I mean, essentially, when the defense lawyers say, well, this guy was in the mob and he's got a motive to lie, and the answer is, yeah, but he lied in service of Donald Trump. So Cohen's answer is, yeah, I was a liar. I did this, I did that, but I did that all at the behest and at the bequest of Donald Trump. And by the way, you don't have to believe me. Here are the checks. Here's the recording. Here's the documents. Here's everything. So from what I saw today in the indictment, and what I've seen in the narrative of facts, which accompanied the indictment, which is kind of like the story laid out in narrative form, they're not just depending on Cohen. They're depending on documents. They've got documents. They've got recordings, and that's how they're going to make their case. Interestingly enough, they also put into the narrative of facts another payment that he was alleged to have made to this woman named Karen McDougal before Stormy Daniels, part of Catch and Kill. And another catch and kill story that Pecker got involved with was a doorman at Trump's building, which was claiming he had some information about, Trump fathering a child out of wedlock. So even though those are not part of the charge counts in the case, I think evidentially the prosecutor is going to try to bring that in to show a pattern of fraudulent conduct here, of which the Stormy Daniels payoff was just one part of it. And that's going to be an interesting evidential argument to see how they can contextualize this with other crimes evidence that aren't necessarily part of the indictment itself.
Hey, a personal question, Scott. You're obviously from North America. I'm assuming you are American. Are you a US American citizen?
I'm a Kiwi American. I've got two passports now. Yeah.
Okay, so you've lived in America. You're looking at one of your American passport, former presidents in court today. How do you feel about that personally?
This is an interesting question because there's been a bit of a convention in the United States. I mean, Nixon, Bill Clinton as examples of people who arguably committed crimes but were never charged criminally. Not that they didn't pay consequences. Nixon resigned. Clinton made a deal with the prosecutors to give up his law license to avoid criminal prosecution over perjury in the Paula Jones case and the Lewinsky case. There's been a bit of a convention that we don't prosecute our former presidents because there's a bit of a notion that if you look at failed states, they very often will prosecute their political enemies once they get out of power. I definitely think that's an issue, and I am a little concerned about the political implications of prosecuting a former president. But what I'm more concerned about is not prosecuting one.
Yeah.
Because if you look at another characteristic of failed states, one of the things they don't do is hold their leaders to account. And if I had to balance things up, I am more concerned with not holding Donald Trump to account than I am with the political implications of holding him to account, because I think one of the founding principles of democracy, which I believe in, is that everyone is equal under the law. So, Trump and his people are going to spin this as, the deep state, they're not coming for me, they're coming for you. This is unjust. This is all political prosecutions. There is no evidence of that so far whatsoever. In fact, what there is a grand jury of 23 people who thought there was reasonable cause to believe that 34 separate crimes have been committed by Donald Trump. Yeah. And we make the same result in Georgia and the same result with our federal grand juries. And so I think the most important principle here is that no person is above the law. Donald Trump will get the same due process and fair trial rights as everybody else, and we'll just see what the jury decides.
Hey, Scott, it's been fantastic talking to you this evening. I hope we can have you back, because it sounds like we've at least got 3 other conversations to be had about other charges that are coming. But I very much appreciate you giving us some time today. I sometimes feel like when I do some Googling around and searching, I find little gems in the academic world, and you feel like you're one of them. So thank you very much for giving us some time this evening to have a chat about this. And we'll stay in touch, and hopefully we'll talk to you again sometime.
It's my pleasure anytime. Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.